So, the Super Mario Galaxy movie is here. The sequel to the massive box office juggernaut from a couple years ago, and a film that I'm sure will serve as harmless fun for the whole family. An entertaining, easy to digest experience that puts a smile on every oh my goodness. Well, it seems like the critics don't like it, the audiences love it. So, who's correct? Of course, I will be providing the answer to that today, as my opinion is the objectively correct one, and you shouldn't listen to anybody else. Let's begin. So when it comes to this movie, if you think you know what it's gonna be like, you're probably right. This movie is exactly what you expect. It's not something that's gonna surprise you, it's not gonna go deeper than you think it is. It feels like it knows what its audience wants, and it gives it to them. Like, I was sitting there in the theater on opening night, so I had a bunch of people who were clearly very hardcore Nintendo fans, Mario and Luigi fanatics. And not to say that I'm not a fan, like, I played Mario growing up, but it's also something that I haven't really been deeply invested in since I was a kid. But based on my audience's reaction, people were loving it. So if you like the first film, I would have a very hard time imagining that you wouldn't also get a kick out of this. But at the same time, if you were someone who wasn't a huge fan of that first film, this is probably not the movie that's gonna convert you. The big positive for me with this movie is it has a really nice change of setting, where, as you can tell by the title, we are now going throughout the rest of the galaxy. So there's a different feel to this movie than the first one. It's got a little bit more sci-fi, intergalactic vibes to it. We got UFOs, we got spaceships, and honestly, I think this was pretty important, because even though I liked the first movie, and while watching that one back a couple years ago, I had a huge smile on my face the entire time, I was kind of concerned that the sequel would be a little bit too samey, because I think a big part of what made that first one fun is just the novelty of it all. Seeing these characters and these locations and these musical beats that everyone knows and loves come onto the screen for the first time. I mean, it's kind of hard not to get into it, but once you've seen it, it's kind of like, we've been there, we've done that. So I think they made a really smart decision saying, okay, we need to change things up. We can't just be running through the Mushroom Kingdom again, going through the same obstacle courses. We need to do something that creates a new experience, and I do think that this movie gives you that. Now, how much longer can they keep this up? Like I said, I'm not a huge Mario fan, so I'm not sure just how big this world is or how many more films they can do before it starts to feel stale. I mean, maybe you guys can tell me that in the comments. But for me, as long as they keep changing it up and making it feel fresh, I'm down to see more. So as you can probably tell for me, the main appeal with these films is seeing these worlds and these characters come to life, which is also why I feel like these films get way less interesting as they go on. Like, as the plot keeps going and we get deeper into the movie, I'm talking 1 hour, 1 hour 10, 1 hour 20, I just feel like the movie does lose a huge amount of steam, because towards the beginning of these films, when it's about the settings and the characters and where we're going and who we're introducing, it's all very engaging. But then as the story moves on and it becomes much more about, like, the actual plot that they've been setting up, I mean, the plot is just the least interesting part of these stories, and I'm not particularly invested in it. So by the time we get to the final battles of both the original and this one, I'm kind of tapped out, and I do hope that going forward, maybe they could conjure up a story or some character arcs that are maybe a little bit more interesting so that we actually do care when we get to the third act of these films. Because right now, when you do get to the later half of this film, honestly, I could care less about what's happening on the screen. Now, I will say the one thing that was interesting with this film is it feels like they're really doubling down on their core audience for these movies, which is Nintendo fans. Whereas the first one felt to me very accessible to the general public, this one definitely feels a little bit more niche. Like, as someone who's not hyper obsessed with these characters and this world, I did feel like there was a lot of things in this movie that were going over my head. There was a lot of Easter eggs, there was characters that were showing up, and there were certain locations that we went to that my audience of hardcore Nintendo fans seemed to be loving, and I was just kind of like, what is happening right now? Speaking of which, who is this guy? Like, I saw they put out an announcement last week that Glenn Powell was going to be playing this character, but I did not expect the pop that this arrival got in theaters. Like, when this dude showed up, my audience started clapping like it was a Marvel cameo. And so I do wonder, is this movie going to alienate some more of the general public? Because I do feel like to get the full experience out of this movie, the more you know about the lore and about these characters, the better. Now, speaking of bringing things to life that Nintendo players want to see, there was some really nice visualization in this movie of basically finding a way within the movie that actually makes sense to have characters be playing Nintendo. Like, there's one section in this movie where we have a certain character who is watching our other characters go through an obstacle course on the screen, the same way that you as a player would be watching these characters go through obstacles on a screen. And so it was this really meta moment that I thought was really well done, where you're watching the film, and as the characters are going through certain things, it would keep cutting back to one of our characters basically playing Nintendo. Like, he's watching the screen as our characters try to go through this obstacle course. And it's also done in the design of what an actual Mario game looks like. So that was a super neat, creative detail that they added in here. And again, my audience was just eating it up. So well done. Now, the music was a huge part of what I liked about the first film. Of course, the actual score was great, and that definitely carries over here, but there was a bunch of great needle drops in that first movie. Like, I mean, we had No Sleep Till Brooklyn by the Beastie Boys, Take On Me, Thunderstruck, Mr. Blue Sky. But sadly, when it comes to this movie, the needle drops, at least in my opinion, were considerably less. Like, we did get one by Biggie towards the beginning of the film, which I absolutely loved and was part of this great fun sequence. But beyond that, not much. And honestly, I could have used more of those great needle drop moments. Additionally, there's no Peaches moment in this film. Like last time, Jack Black singing the Peaches song was just an iconic moment from the original film. Oh, yeah. Oh. And there isn't a moment like that in this one. Like, if you're waiting to see what's gonna be the song of this film, there isn't one. So I feel like some people could be a little bit disappointed with that. Now, of course, in the post-credit scene of the first film, we got the tease of Yoshi. And he is a great addition to this movie. Like, right from the moment he comes on screen, you could just feel it in the theater. Everyone was like, yeah, we love him. He's such a cute character, but also he has some of the best comedy in the movie, which these movies have always been funny. I think it's one of the reasons the first film works so well, is that it's genuinely a funny movie. The comedy is great, the jokes make you laugh, and I'm happy to say that this film doesn't really lose a step in that department. Is some of the humor like stupid teenage boy humor of people getting slapped in the face? Yeah, but also, I don't care. It works. Now, while I've been saying that there's no real character arcs or anything like that in this movie, we did get close to one with Bowser. Now, Bowser in this movie is weird, because they actually take him on sort of a surprising journey that I wasn't expecting, where the decisions he makes regarding his son and his relationship now with Mario and Luigi was definitely unexpected, and I thought was interesting for a period of time. But the reason I say it's weird is because the film eventually just kind of throws it all out. Like, everything that they built up with the character that could have turned into something halfway decent, as soon as you get to the final act of this movie, they're just like, never mind. Which is just kind of symbolic to me of this entire movie. Like, the closest they could get to something actually interesting beyond the bright colors and animation and nostalgia is half of a character arc. Not a full one, because whoa, that would be too much. Now, sadly, there's also no Donkey Kong in this movie, and again, I'm not saying it like it would have ever made sense for him to be here, but I just loved Seth Rogen as that character in the first one so much that I was really hoping that they would maybe find a way to squeeze him in here, because in terms of voice performances, he was really the standout to me of that first film, especially when they would just say screw it and would just give us the Seth Rogen laugh coming out of this monkey. But it's okay, because maybe he will come back in the future, because if you thought this franchise was done, you would be mistaken. There's two post-credit scenes, and both of them sort of tease characters being either introduced or going off for further adventures, which raises the question of, can they keep doing this? Like, how many more times can they give us a Super Mario movie before it feels like the novelty and the fun of it all has kind of run out? Now, I don't know how to answer that question. Some of you guys in the comments, I'm sure, are better informed about that. But as for me, as long as they keep mixing up the settings, introducing new characters, and just preventing this whole thing from feeling stale, I'd say go for it. Clearly, these films make money. The first one made $1.3 billion. How much will this film make? Probably not as much as the first, but let's not kid ourselves. It's still gonna make $1 billion. So, who was right? The critics or the audience? Well, it kind of depends. Like, is there a great story here? No. Are there great characters here? Also, no. Is this a movie that you're going to be thinking about for more than 10 minutes after you leave the theater? Probably still no. But at the same time, is it a fun experience that will have you smiling throughout the entire runtime? I would say yes. And if you like the first movie, you're probably going to want to check this one out in theaters with a packed audience. It's a lot of fun. But anyways, guys, these are just my thoughts on the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Whatever you guys think about this film, let me know down in the comments. And if you guys like this video and want to see another, just click somewhere on the screen to see what YouTube thinks you like, and I will see you guys in the next one.